Okay, so like with the interesting right now is for like some skills character like the exact sheet like like of structure like theory of like search like I'm thinking like the clear that mysterious character the problem with the brain like the have been called like the brain of like your eyes like I'm looking like search magic would you call eye element based magic it's definitely remember the same person so like that's like my first favorite person, and then I'm also putting like right now as well. Like I'm putting like this like mysterious guy with like the zigzag teeth. Like I'm putting it seems to be a whole lot stronger than even so it's like the scenario that I'm also putting. So like I'm also putting maybe like that mysterious captain with like this that says I'm putting like things like stuff to only like the voice captain of like the couple of dancing like I'm putting like maybe that guy with like the zigzag face that would be maybe of like the levels of strength of that would be of like the captain himself of like the purple of that that need about what is that and the and I was very ambitious as for like the space character that this is that they said I'm using like his powers and Perseverance would be definitely Perseverance seems to like not have any mana or magical powers at all. Exactly like as like Perseverance seems to having that like parallel with like as like him to move Perseverance won't be having any magical powers and then Perseverance like his powers would be all three based powers. But like Perseverance like his three powers would be totally different to as the like I mean, like totally similar to Abdal. And like I'm looking like his three powers as well would be totally down for others. Like the situation like Asta probably having just like uh, came inside like Asta. Like I'm looking like uh, uh, and my good impressions for like the just gap like like into definitely different like would be having like unlike Asta skills like I'm going to have like a folklore grimmer. There's like one possibility that I'm delivering, or like the other possibility that I'm delivering is so like if it has like a grimmer, then I'm delivering it to be a folklore grimmer. Or like the other possibility that I'm delivering for like him to not even have a grimmer, to live in standard for like his fighting techniques might also them for like it would be totally like a martial art based like fighting technique. While he would be like coping and towering his like arms and feet with like just like dark or opposite in power with like the scenario. And like he would be like fighting with like a martial arts kind of like technique. Uh while supporting himself with like a dark field or like my particular for example, like how to like his captain with like that he would be fighting something in another anything like this reimbursement right now as for like some skills category like this is that page like I'm looking like either in currently on a journey all by himself. In either I'm considering would be like a solo traveler in not being allied or like being part of like any team at all right now. It's like one possibility that I'm looking. So the possibility that I'm considering is like basically and like so like he might have casually just ran into like so like one possibility that I'm doing. The other possibility that I'm looking is for like him totally he might have been like the solo traveler or something and that he might have been found out by like lit or like the ancient ancestors and might have been recruited to like the eye of the Minanthan group. It's like the other possibility that I'm looking at. So like I'm looking that's the case then my preference that like him totally right now running into like this guy was like this that it might not be just like a coincidence, but like I'm assuming it might be part of that maybe that the secret mission given to like that mysterious guy to maybe take out like stuff. It's like one topic that I'm doing. So like I'm looking to might have consciously like showed up to obstruct like the power of like stuff to that take just it's like one possibility that I'm looking at. So like or like I'm looking like him to still be secretly allied to like the minute and we might have getting this ran into stuff might have been one that probably makes you a point to definitely what might have happened. But like I'm looking right now with like him finding out that like so like some subordinate like him finding out that like like a magic knight like that resulting in like definitely since like the isolate was like against all with like that knight number to like maybe due to that reason number to like him definitely that right now fighting and offering and debating and bringing down stuff is like what's an arts that I'm looking. So like I'm looking right now for like the possibilities that I'm looking at right now is for like him to like definitely have a fight right now. That just yeah, I was like the exactly right now. Those are like in Tokyo right now fighting off against like the scenario that I'm looking at. And in that fight, like I'm looking like either him to like take the life of stuff or like I'm looking like him to that badly or for and defeat and badly injure stuff like the scenario that I'm looking. Yet like I'm looking neither stuff no suspect about it, we having like absolutely no idea at all. As like who the like mysterious villain is, and I'm definitely right now in this current interaction between like subs and like that mysterious guy, like I'm that definitely not really anything about this like true identity or like as to like the possibly in fact he's like secretly allied to like the criminals and even that like I'm not revealing that so it's like the scenario that I'm like I'm looking like the like this news spreading about this like appearance of this like mysterious villain in that and I'm looking right now stuff would be in like the cross and up by such my around ran into the mysterious villain that also like a bit of that so like that way like this news spreading about this like presence of this mysterious solo villain in like the cross and that news reaching like Julian's Julius is like yes, it's like the scenario that I'm looking and Julius like basically summoning maybe like the summoning maybe like Yami to like basically investigate into this like also like about that way like I'm looking maybe like and at that point I'm looking like after Yami basically straight away ordering like at the Noel and maybe one among like at the that group my exploring member like maybe I'm going to bring it would be Gordon kind of that like since like Gordon had lost a lot of like for like Gordon alone from the like so had lost like importance and spotlight during like the underwater temple up like since it was like Gordon alone that wasn't able to like join like the underwater up mission like I'm going to bring like maybe I'm going to bring this time that I'm like third member of like as the team that I'm going to bring a team like Hassan Oil and with the third member being Gordon and then being task given this task by Yamu to like investigate just that mysterious that this is that mysterious like villain who's like causing trouble in like plot like the Bakudu that I'm that way like maybe like as the trio of them like basically surfing frantically and that's really to find this villain. And I was wondering, like this sort of happening, like I'm looking like there being like maybe I'm looking there will be like a great number of days, more than enough days for like the Royal Knight exams to like take place, especially when it's reimbursed. So like I'm thinking there will be more than enough time for like all of them to train like the other quality that I'm just correct. So like because of that like I'm doing maybe like after that yeah I'm sending like after and Noel as well as that board to like investigate this like scenario that I'm looking. And that's like the opposite that I mean, maybe the presence of like this mysterious villain, whom a person that whom to whom that sub has right now ran into that maybe this would be the legal like the clause and so like I'm looking maybe because like I'm looking like William Manus by now might have secretly leaked out and that definitely William Manus comes to take them up and would be secretly alive to that by and so like I'm looking he might have totally secretly leaked out orders like declaration by like the king of the law to create like the royal knights and to like attack like the base of that by Exterminate and all that like I'm looking like the lemon just might have taken the lead to like the Exterminate and group. So like I'm looking maybe that as well as also like about that I'm looking that like this like mysterious guy with like the detective might be like a new powerful recruited member of the Exterminate and so like he might have been sent on like the mission to like fight on like everything that's like happening in like the global kingdom right now as for like the preparation for like to attack like the base of the that's on it's also like about what that and so like I'm given that maybe him totally this that guy with like the detective that maybe him being like sent by that list or like the incident so, on like a spy mission on like the global kingdom and I'm maybe that way like him even ending up being as like one of like the audience watching like the Royal Knights exam as well. It's also like about that and in that way for him to like especially uh like so that like the IFM Knights can be like especially witness like all the powerful ones and like the one among like the match knights Royal Knights army that would be eventually launching the attacks on like the base of like the minutes and like the ones among them to like watch out for and all that like everything. So that like they could like even set like the price ultimate trap in like the base of like the current base of like the minutes while they would be eventually the Royal Knight they would be formed and they would be eventually launching their attack there. So but like and I'm still thinking about the that like usually once like the Royal Knight by the time like the Royal Knight group army would be formed and like they would be going up to like the base of like the and to like attack and bring down like the same and by then like I'm thinking definitely the news would have probably leaked by William and to which like the insurance coverage, and they would have by then totally even shifted like their way from like their current position to like a totally different position. And still thinking about that, like by the time like the Royal Knights would be like making that introduction and trying to break down like the feminism from that base, like I'm saying that by then like that feminism might have not only shifted their base to that foreign base to like another location, but they might have also set up that the previous turns converted like the previous base into like such into it being filled with like all sorts of like traps set for like to bring down and take out like the Royal Knight army. It's also like living the scenario that I'm referring to the understand right now. Okay, so like you know the ambition right now for like that I look like this exact feet like right now for like succession to like the position of that stuff as like the important position of that stuff as like a white captain and like the fact that the like a big store like really affecting him so much like I'm looking that you know the for like the actuality of like the instance guy that does that page like I'm looking for like the property that like him possibly having like a dark part, like a dark backstory where like he might have been like in that the rest like he might have been abandoned by his like parents and but like he might have been someone who might have always felt unwanted and who might not only had that strong feeling of even to the they would be having that deep down would be having that strong feeling of like feeling as if that he's like totally unimportant and he's like totally unwanted is the name of the friend. So like I'm like him throughout his like journey of life until this point like I'm like that Mrs. guy with like with that state like might have been like gotten rejected at like all sorts of like different occasions and different places a lot in his life from the like past. It's definitely my private and this would be like the best reason for like I'm different definitely him that guy would like do that being obsessed with like stuff having all this like importance and like being of like being a bit short and having this important holding this important position of like being a vice captain and all that. It's definitely also like about that and maybe I'm like uh, like definitely I'm bring for there to most likely be an extreme jealousy deep down within like the guy who like doing that tape towards the solely due to like just having all this like just being like a vice captain of like a match night and basically have holding such an important position and all that's definitely one thing. Maybe like back during like the childhood of like the guy who like took that tape, he might, his ultimate dream might have been to like become magic knight. It's definitely one thing in which at least like he might have only failed due to like all sorts of reasons, legit reasons in like the past might have been like a factor in like him not being able to like make it to the being able to like be a magic knight. So also like about that but then maybe one of like those crucial factors might have been like the fact that like but then like him more exactly like has the like him as well like the guy that does exactly as well might definitely not have any mana at all. Definitely my reason while Asta or change such a disadvantage and made it to becoming like a magic knight. That too with like solely due to like the help of like the uh, solely due to like Asta getting like the demon slayer sword and all that like which in the case of like but like and my remember so like in the case of like the guy with like the this guy with like this exactly is like like he might have not gotten lucky like Asta and that like he might have not gotten like any sort of like a single or like anti-magic or like such that powerful weapon like in that of case. So like I'm also like in the case of like the guy who's been used exactly like he might have been unfortunate and unlucky to that and that way might have not received such special extra powerful weapon or anything and that might have been like a major factor that might have resulted in like him even while he like as he might have had so badly deserved to become like a magic knight like still solely due to like him not getting lucky and not getting some extra special weapon like Amazon, like he might have not been able to like make it to become like a magic knight. Certainly, so like he might have been like someone in like the system past might have entered and participated in like the magic knight entrance exam, but like might be someone who might have participated in like the magic knight entrance exam and failed and might have not been gotten chosen by any of like his program. This is like one person that was different. And like so maybe like Yami as well might have seen this like performance, but like I'm looking like so the reason Yami might have as well might have not chosen him as like a management squad of like the squad member of like the Blasters. So might have been due to that maybe Yami something like not that much genuinity or like hidden villainistic kind of like nature within like that mistakes guy and this that did. It's also like about that type of feeling. That might be that being like the factor maybe that might also have been not even Yanni as well pushing to be part of it's like that. So it's also like a lot of that and everything. And that way like he might have attempted like the magic might have exactly like the that absolute hope of like being able to like become like a magic knight being able to like be part of like the magic knight and might have been failed at that might have been what might have happened like the past or like I'm super like also like the remote possibilities that I'm switching on to select the other remote possibilities that I'm switching on to for like the guy with like that is possibly even unlike in like Aska case like since like Aska I think like had brought up Aska like by Clover Grimoire like the very exact moment Aska also got this like I think like Demon Slayer sword as well through so like like since like according to my experience like this like guy was like this that he might have not got unlucky like as so like he might have been unlucky to get and that way not gotten uh any grimoire either on top of like not getting any special weapon he might have not gotten a grimoire either so like that's also like about that he might be like someone who might be the guy who like exactly might not even have like the grimoire either it's like uh, so like he might be at like a even further extreme disadvantages kind of like a situation. He might have grew up in such an even more great disadvantageous situation when compared to us. That's also like a particular empathy. So maybe that's like not a particular empathy. And so like that way since like he might have not had like a getting more like he might have not even been able to like even enter like the match might enter even though even while he might have attempted to like enter into like the match enter the stuff. He might have straight away been even rejected solely due to like him not having getting more either. It's also like a possibility that I'm looking at. That's like the possible where I'm living. And I was like, yet like I'm like, even though he might have been back then and been so sad and disappointed and frustrated, he might have overcame all that disadvantages like even more than as the like I'm looking at. He might have like made an even more of like an overcoming accomplishment through like him maybe possibly trained by himself or like him most likely by himself that him that figuring out like training that's really working extra hard and training extra hard and like figuring out his like key powers and really or like strengthening the succeeding in like strengthening up his like key powers and that maybe that learning martial arts and basically that combining martial arts with his like key powers and basically becoming like this like and eventually his like hard work paying off into that making eventually maybe even without getting more like ending up training and growing in strength into that reaching like the levels of strength in which like he would be at in like the person is definitely member version where like I'm in like the person he would be like never anything to be like of the levels of strength possibly the levels of strength of that of like squad captain level of strength, especially my observation. So like definitely since like this like only a vice captain of like the of like I'm definitely like the mysterious guy the this actually would be like a whole lot stronger than like that's definitely my observation. So like that much of like an achiever might be like the guy with like the mysterious guy with like which that is like my theory and prediction of like the positive end of the brand. So yet like Amitabh like he would be still hold over by his like even to the person would be still hold over by his like insecurities of like him not being able to become like a magic knight. It's also like about to take that and what that would be his like weakness and that insecurity of that might exist within him would be his like weakness that might have even that he might still be present even to the present day. It's also like a this much like my person to remember right now. And so that might be the campus of training. This might be like the reason for like the guy that the that feels that right now that repeatedly being not only being obsessed but like obsessively inserting that the math side right now. Was definitely my concern, which is both being secretary which like extreme insecurity within him. It's definitely and jealousy within him, right? Towards like my definitely my concern. And so like according to my brain version, since like I'm also different like this guy with like this is actually possibly right now might be of like one of the of it is that like he might be currently be part of like would be like a new record of like feminism and like that reason as well for like in I was different like joining like feminism. Might be also due to like a fundamental return also different like basically him totally having lived his like life to like the person while having that deep down having that strong feeling of the as if like it's like totally unwanted. It's definitely my try. So like I'm like even though like the midnights and such villain stick kind of like a group to auto supplement things yet like the fact that like such an extremely powerful group like the ISM that desiring him and wanting him to like join their group that basically that might have given him that guy that feels like basically given him that feeling of like that as if like he's like totally wanted and that too by such like a group of powerful people like basically that might be like possibly like the reason for like and how that the thing that they might have ended up joining like the AFM as like it's like new passport for a other member. It's like a possibility that a person is only for another members. Also, like the new promotion right now is for like Mimos are definitely passing like the Royal Knight system and being part of like the Royal Knight the definitely in the scenario that I was and with like the revelation of like with like Mimosa right now on top of like being expert in her healing magic like Mimosa right now learning like attack based magic as well. Definitely my remissions that like still like regardless of like Mimosa learning attack based magic like still Mimosa's strong point until like the very end of the show like I'm definitely protecting Mimosa's like strong point would always remain in her like area of like healing magic and spell. That's definitely my remission. So like I'm looking like even like Mimosa right now learning attack based magic like I'm still it won't be like a direct intent kind of like an attack based magic as that of attack based magical spells that of knowledge. That's definitely my remission. Like, in Mimosa case like it will be definitely a different kind of like attack based magic where like I'm looking like it will be like magical spells that Mimosa would be learning, through which like Mimosa would be able to like poison the enemy or like opponent, poison or like paralyze or like bind down like the enemy or like they use such like basically such magic to that such magic maybe like in like a large scale like you know being able to like use learning all sorts of magical skills that can like poison like a large number of enemies and they use such kind of like an indirect kind of like an attack based magic is what I'm also trying like the attack based magic that like Mimosa would even be able to like learn until like the very end like the scenario that I'm also learning. While at the same time like because like Mimosa's strong point of strength in the Mimosa would be like on her feeling side of like magic where like I'm looking like Mimosa would be like she's excelling and would be like she's the sharpening up her lads. Never until like very end, it was her Mimosa's highlight would be her exceptional healing magic is like the healing based magic is like the scenario that I'm going to referring and not the 300. Also, right now, I'm also embracing for like maybe like it's about to do that like in like the Royal Knights exam like as the lack of things being put into like basically it's by sheer coincidence like example like as the having to like face off against like you know in like a 1 versus 1 fight in like the Royal Knights exam. It's also like a possibility that I'm looking at. So like in that battle I'm looking like uh like the fight eventually like what after initially struggling seriously against like you know like magic attacks, but like I'm like the after bringing out like after like black after power and this new then even with that like I'm like even though I will be fighting back I will be seriously fighting back and like you know at that point will be put into like the crux of kind of like a situation. So like I'm yet like I'm like you know finally like towards the end, very end of like the battle and leaving you like you know like current full strength at that point and I was bringing the fight that way, ending up in a draw, like the scenario that I'm sitting. So like I'm looking like throughout like the training of like the past months for like the Royal Knights, which I'm like I'm looking like right now in like the person like I'm looking like even with like as like black as step power, like I'm looking like that even with like the current levels of strength of like as like black as step power, like I'm looking the current levels of strength of you know would be like the very exact same. Let's say I'm looking right now as then you know would be of like the exact equal levels of strength right now in like the process is definitely not the same. Like, so like I'm looking like in that way, like in that fight between like a friend, you know, I'm focusing that fight ending up in a draw with like maybe both Asta as well as like, you know, with getting either getting so badly injured uh towards the end of that fight and basically both of them being unable to like stand up. There's like one possibility that I'm looking or like I'm looking like both of them like being so badly injured and badly exhausted towards like the end of like their battle. But like I'm looking like that final attack, like them both giving it their current everything, all of like their current power into that final attack and everything that final attack that something like a huge explosion and that resulting in like both you know as well as that going unconscious, falling unconscious like the scenario that I'm like that way like the fight between us and you know in like the Royal Knights is ending up in a draw and I'm looking like the Julius would be so extremely impressed that, and I was different that even though the king at that point, the king Augustus at that point would be like opportunity of the division to like basically to like that way reject and eliminate both like as and both like it being Julius that will be like totally somehow managing to like convince that other stuff to like basically to take both as well as and add them to like the Royal Knights army because like their exceptional powers and strength will be definitely totally coming in handy uh, for like their eventual attack on like the base of it. The Nathan would be along the lines like I'm looking like Julius would be eventually succeeding and like convincing like Augustus also like a possibility that I'm looking at. Or like I'm looking like Augustus like totally seeing along the lines that basically since like Augustus was like totally not pleased with like basically with like the higher rank of like in like the Star Festival of like the Black Whisper as well as like the Golden Dawn. I'm going to find like maybe Augustus think of that as like a great idea because like from other point of view maybe Augustus will be thinking of like the positive and like basically of like basically things like the Golden Dawn and like the Black Pro have such such like high start points like maybe like through this attack on like the base of like the abdominals and like the possibility of like those two since maybe like Augustus would be expecting like through like the Royal Knights and like the majority would be like Black Pro members as well as like the Golden Dawn members would be along the lines like maybe Augustus would be also expecting stuff also like about that way to through that attack, others maybe even would be thinking that basically even if they might like bring down like the dominance and like through that attack, like a great the majority of like the Blackwood crew and like the Blackwood crew members as well as like the Golden Dawn members like ending up dying through that attack against like since it's like the base of like dominance and like attacking like the base of like the dominance and like maybe that may will be also what like and like other stuff might be realistically expecting and that might be like the reason for like him even bringing up like the idea of like Saroy and and so also like about into that I'm whispering. So maybe I'm whispering like that way that so because of that reason I'm like almost like gladly deciding to like even though I'm whispering like eventually for like an established that select the Royal like exam and like that way then you can witness or like August maybe like straight away taking the decision to like pick both like as well as to be part of like, the Royal Knight army. So also like about to set and the bring and in the do that and go to bring and on the question. Because like in short like my impression that basically Augustus through like the Royal Knight system would be totally expecting like the majority of like, the Royal Knight army would be like Blacklist crew members as well as like Golden Dawn members or like a crew like the attack on like the base of like the minutes and like the once like the majority Augustus would not expecting like the majority of like the Blacklist crew and like the Golden Dawn ending up dying during that attack and that way like basically like with them like losing all of their main team members like that way majority of like club members like maybe at that point that also will be planning on like canceling out like both the Blackwood's Magic Knight squad as well as like the Golden Dawn Magic Knight squad and to like replace these two squads with like two new Magic Knight squad two new Royal Magic Knight squad would be like Royal Magic Knight squad with like only Royal and Noble members as part of like that Magic Knight squad would be might be that way to like, get rid of like the Blackwood Magic Knight squad as well as the Golden Dawn Magic Knight squad might be like deep down like Augustus like intent villainous intent. It's also like about the element of the frame. So it's like the female preemption right now as for like the mysterious nature for wearing like the black clothes or like I'm looking like would be like most likely like the newer approach to like the black clothes. Since like Yami have already been revealed to patrol members to like squad members to like the black clothes squads with even without like them going through like the match exam members going through so like through a similar manner like without even like the match and the system like Yami might have ran into like this guy somewhere and might have ended up feeling like he would be like and I was wondering maybe like he might have wanted to like join like the like my squad so like about that and the so like or like I'm wondering like maybe like Yami might have totally casually straight away created like also like about that and I'm wondering maybe if like a remote possibility of like him totally hiding like that new recruit that new recruit member of like the Black Squad like partly hiding secret villains in the net well it's also like about that and I'm like him to definitely this new member of like the black group, whomever bring definitely like the section wearing like the black robe, like he would be definitely like the new approach like the black so definitely so like like him also to bring him to be most likely be a noble or like a royal. I'm leaning more towards the possibility of like him most likely being a noble. It's definitely my possibility understands. Definitely I'm like him most likely maybe like hiding some sort of like secret villainous intent maybe and I'm like that possibly being like the reasons behind like him joining like the Black Group. It's also like a possibility that I'm or like a possibility like him joining like the Black Group might be like the secret villainous plan since like the during like the recent Star Festival since like the Black Group had made all the way into like reaching like I think like the second position in like star point table like the position definitely like this might have created definitely created like a lot of jealousy in like all the other like match in like the majority of the other magic night squad. So like I'm really like him like this size new recruit to like the black so might be like secret villain stick strategy to like trick Yami and like the entire team of the black so that like through him like the other magic night squad would be like planning on like stealthily like making him like he might have been like this new member to like the black who might be given like the secret orders to like mess up all of like the plans of like the plans and missions and everything of like the black group and to find out all the secrets of like the black group as well as to like how they had even made it all the way to from like the very last position with like negative stuff to like making it to like the second position and all that like basically to find out the secrets of like the black group as well as to like destroy like all plans of like and all mess up all the missions of like the Black Stroke so that like by the time for like the next by the time it will be like the time for like the next star festival in like the next year like the Black Stroke would be having like the star points like getting reduced from like second position to falling all the way back down towards like the final like last position and all that. It's definitely to make this happen like I'm with that villain intent like I'm like personally parting like the possibility of like this new recruit, this new member of like the Black Widow being sent by uh, being like a secret strategy that used by one of like the one of like or like by a bunch of like other night squad captains like villains intends to like bring down like the Black Widow from like the second position like the staff for by the it's also like a possibility that I'm looking at. It is the new Emerson right now as for like Pinral that new hairstyle right now making Pinral look a lot similar to it like for the language like I'm preferring right now for like in like the Royal Knights exam I'm definitely preferring for like Pinral fight would be definitely against like would be ending up being against land versus like the scenario that I'm looking so like I'm definitely that one versus one fight between like Pinral and land happening in like the Royal Knights exam like the scenario that I'm looking for the hand. In that exam, I'm definitely bring like even though Finral would be like I'm looking like Finral initially she is struggling against like language's power, but like I'm looking like still eventually I'm looking like and language I'm looking like would be like mocking and making fun of like Finral and like would be like poorly quantifying legally talk, talking towards Latin Run all throughout Black fight against Latin Run that Royal Knight, for example, like the scenario that I was running while Black Lanterns will be literally straight away as like, the fight begins itself, be getting that extreme upper hand in that fight against Latin Run is like the scenario that I was running. And Pin Run is totally struggling against like Lanterns' powers and American powers and everything. But like I'm looking like eventually I'm looking like as that fight would be like almost about to be over with like Lanterns will be about to like thoroughly defeat like Pinral Ambassador taking a lot of injuries and then looking at like with Langrus will be about to like thoroughly defeat Pinral. Uh, at that very last second episode, like Pinral would be like have it finally until then like Pinral would be like only feeling weak and as like even emotionally and mentally as well Pinral would be only feeling weak and like feeling, having that like whole inferiority complex towards his like brother dangerous happening and Pinral would be like remembering all those like incidents from his like past where like his like own parents might have like compared Pinral with like language and like all that like release destroying Pinterest conference and all that like Pinral remembering all that and everything maybe also it's about into that like language to be thoroughly about to like defeat Pinral like at that very last second maybe like I'm like at the, from like the sidelines like shouting out to like Pinral and basically like saying something that basically would be giving at that last announcement would be that snapping something within that Pinterest will be snapping out of like this lack for train of thoughts of like that demotivated thoughts and ambiguous through like hashtags like shouting out to like Pinterest and most likely making Pinterest up and Pinterest snapping out of it and basically Pinterest like totally like at that very last second like figuring out like some sort of like strategy using his like magic powers of like that for like magic and all that spiritual magic and all that like I'm looking like Pinterest so it's figuring out some sort of like an ultimate magical battle style using which like I'm looking like Pinterest totally surprising like landers and like totally outsmarting landers and then like Pinterest at that very last second like totally that outsmarting and outpouring and defeating landers is like the scenario that I'm looking and that way like I'm looking like that for landers was Pinterest fight like I'm looking towards the very end like until like the very end like I'm looking of that battle I'm looking like it's totally being the fight being totally a one sided battle with like landers totally dominating the fight, but like I'm doing towards the very end, like I'm doing like totally automatic languages and turning things around like and totally offering and defeating language is like the scenario that I'm looking for everything. And that way, like I'm looking to be Finral that will be defeating land towards the very end and like Finral getting chosen to be part of like the Royal Knights and land having that absolute ultimate shock with like the of like facing that defeat against like Finral. Someone like Landon would have thought is like totally look down on so much. It's like even the scenario that I'm looking for the as for like the music scenario in like the Royal Knights system that I'm looking for the impression. Also the claim of impression has for like abstract like old friends like from like the praying mantis like I'm looking like as well finally will be getting like an actual true spotlight in like the current magic in the current Royal Knights system, which like in the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm definitely Sege as well definitely would be like struggling his way in that his like eventual fight that would take place in like the Royal Knights system. Definitely able to Sege definitely like showing up and taking participating in like the Royal Knights system and I'm looking Sege in Sege's case as well I'm looking Sege struggling and I'm looking like Sege's fight would be against like someone who would be like seriously strong and I was looking Sege totally struggling through like the majority of that battle. And like that battle being totally one-sided and towards like the very end of like that battle, Ambassador like Seke totally turning things around and Ambassador like Seke totally like shocking everyone and like second totally overpowering and defeating that opponent and like Seke ending up being part of like the Royal Knights army as well with like enemies and scenarios that I'm definitely and I'm the mission. Boston as well, I'm definitely putting would be like participating in like the Royal Knights system and definitely would be like totally shocking everyone by like once like Gordon would be actually bring out his like pro power like I'm looking like in Gordon's case like I'm looking like it won't even be like Gordon like a scenario in which like Gordon would be like struggling throughout like the majority of this like battle in like the Royal Knight system. But like I'm looking like it would be like maybe straight away that as like Gordon would be bringing out the power like Gordon straight away showing like AC1 and everything like Gordon like totally putting up an exceptional performance and I'm looking at Gordon totally like totally the tournament create difficulty at all that sort of totally offering and defeating this like opponent and like ending up being part of like the Royal Knights army. Getting selected straight away to be part of the Royal Knights army. Like the definitely scenario that I'm sure, especially with like Gordon having missed out on like the underwater temple path. Like definitely I'm looking Gordon this time definitely would be not only getting chosen to be part of like the not only winning and getting chosen to be part of like the foreign army, but like also like another during that for attack on the base of like the item minutes by the Royal Knights army there as well. I'm definitely putting like a Gordon getting that a lot of the serious spotlight as well. It's definitely my favorite. So yeah, Gordon's presence there as well. Like I'm looking like totally come in handy for like the remaining members of like, the Royal Knights army, and that way like Gordon get easily getting noticed by all sorts of people. Gordon and his like exceptional powers and performance and skills that get easily noticed by all sorts of like pictures members, other pictures members in like the Royal Knights army. It's like also like an individual scenario that I'm and I'm playing. Okay, so like the minimum three impression right now was like Noel rather like solid right now. Once again, trying to like demotivate like Noel. Like I'm whispering that so my impression right now is for like as for like the Royal Knights. It's and like Noel fight like I'm being most likely. I'm being most of the possibility of like it being perfectly against solid. Or like the other or the only other possibility that I'm looking for like it to be against like Noel's system. If not solid, then I was like Noel's like Royal Knights system battle would be against like her system. It's like the other member of the silver family that knowledge is the like my very impression. And regardless of the no one would be for and definitely I'm looking like throughout that battle, like regardless of which siblings of Noel against Noel will be fighting out against like regardless like them totally straight away as like before even the battle begins, like and all throughout like the battle they would be like doing her absolute best to like she motivate Noel more and more, and that totally affecting like and Noel's like performance and Noel's like control over her magic, which she might have that worked so hard to like to strengthen like I'm feeling her losing all that due to like the repeated like demotivation kind of words by her siblings during like Noel's battle against them in like the Royal Knights of like the scenario that I'm looking at. In Noel's case as well, I'm considering the routine of like the that Askas like shouting that will be hearing Noel that courage and like snapping Noel out of that whole demotivated kind of like thought train of thought and I'm looking like Noel totally but that absolute confidence like I'm looking like that whole one-sided battle towards the very end like Noel like totally turning things around and like Noel totally or and defeating definitely one of her siblings, like either Noel's sister or like a Muslim literally solid. Definitely member of that. Since like Noel is like squad captain level, definitely member of like in the case of squad captains, I'm looking to be going against like each of the other squad captains like the scenario that I'm so like I'm looking like in Noel's case like I'm doing Noel like the Royal Knight exam like either defeating solid or like Noel's sister. That's the scenario that I'm doing. Also, the film rendition right now as for like in like the RoyalKnightsExm like as for like the fights, the battles of like the squad happens like I'm looking like it will be still in my information that like for the squad happens it will be like most likely them fighting it off against each other. It's like the scenario that I'm looking like so like I'm looking like still yeah, I'm looking it will be a one versus one squad captain battle. Definitely my information. And I'm looking like in the case of like Maraleona, I'm looking Maraleona would be like ending up being put up against like in the All Night system fight against like William and the selection of Nara that I'm about to put something and I'm the one that way like it would be a Maraleona but like Vengeance fight and I'm the one like in that fight like I'm like the audience like getting like that absolute shock, including us and all of them getting that absolute shock with like I'm looking like even though Maraleona will be fighting hard and like in a skillful manner like I'm still I'm like eventually towards the end like I'm definitely for it to be like William Vengeance that would be like bringing out some sort of like an ultimate strategy or using with this like I'm looking like William and totally or powering and defeating Maradona is like the scenario that I'm looking to like that I'm definitely major thing to happen and that way like Maradona not ending up being part of like the Royal Knights army but like instead of being William Mantis that will be getting eventually ending up being chosen for like the Royal Knights army is like that definitely went to scenario that I'm looking and that will be like such an absolute shock for like the entire of the audience. Majority of the audience is like it's a scenario that I'm Maradona knows under definitely would be such a great shock to like the majority of the audience. So that's the scenario that I'm looking. And in the case of like Yami's fight, like I'm looking like the squad captain that Yami would be facing off against them, definitely putting it won't be Jack, but like I'm looking like once like the fight order would be like would be revealed like I'm looking like Yami's fight, I'm looking ending up most likely being against like either Rill, the squad captain Rill, like the youngest squad captain Rill, or like I'm looking like it will be against like that sleeping squad captain, that squad captain woman that sleeps all the time. Like I'm looking like to be one of these two against whom like I'm looking like Yami's like battle in like the Royal Knights exam against like in the scenario that I'm doing. And I'm definitely putting the Yami totally because of that the and definitely I'm looking Yami totally approaching those battles in like an extremely overconfident manner, like straight from like right of like the bat like I'm doing Yami approaching that fight in an extremely overconfident manner and like Yami totally having to pay a lot for that or confidence with like there is a scenario that I'm looking also like regardless of the realm or like that sleeping woman like I'm looking like them actually totally holding a lot of like serious levels of potential and power within them. And I was going that way like that Yami approaching that battle in a confident manner and like Yami is struggling like against the like in that battle it's like the scenario that I'm looking. So definitely, if it ends up being against a will that like Yami will be like having like a next battle, like definitely I'm doing that extreme disrespect and like that like yeah Yami goes towards a will and that like extreme like that disrespect and everything that Yami shows towards like a will and basically that the fact that Yami never took real seriously at all like I'm doing all that changing at that point. So this battle once like Yami would be witnessing like a real true power like a definitely changes scenario. Yet like I'm doing Yami that way, like probably struggling, she's struggling his pain to like eventually just barely being able to like defeat whether it's a real or like that sleeping woman numbers but like Yami is struggling a lot before like finally Yami will be able to like defeat them. It's like an just scenario that I'm talking about. And that way, Yami definitely able to ending up being chosen, finally getting chosen to be part of like the Royal Knights Army. It's definitely one of the things. And definitely bring in Novel's fight as well, and the Novel as well, only winning and getting chosen to be part of like the Royal Knights Army. Like the scenario that I'm doing. And I'm considering maybe for like the positive like Novel's fight possibly being against like Jack, like the captain of the frame, and this is so like I'm like heavily Jack totally killing it to like everything yet like I'm simply like Nozzle would be simply too strong for Jack and like Nozzle totally offering and defeating Jack eventually like the scenario that I'm like. And I'm definitely bringing in like Charlotte battle in like the Royal Knights exam as well. Like I'm definitely bringing like Charlotte as well, definitely winning and getting chosen to be part of like the Royal Knights army. It's like also like an evil scenario where I'm also bring and I'm also definitely bringing like for like the squad captain of like the purple aircraft like that new squad captain of like, the purple aircraft like him as well definitely winning his like Royal Knights exam battle and getting chosen to be part of like the Royal Knights army. It's like definitely even just scenario that I'm talking about the things as my personal question right now. So like the Cleveland Perimeter strategy is that according to my observation is that in like the Royal Knights system that Yami's that battle ends up being against Sorrel. Then I'm going through that battle like I'm going through the audience like showcase going to be witnessing like like exceptional skills and exceptional skills and powers like I was definitely even though it's that ends up being like scenario still I'm going like Yami is already this struggling his way into like an injury or foreign and debating a real scenario that I was but like I was looking even though Phil would be losing that fight like I was looking by the time that fight would be over like I'm looking at Phil would have totally earned like the respect of like not only Yami but like also of like the entire episode would be witnessing that battle is like a definitive interest scenario that I will be working on. And my personal favorite. There won't be like none of like the other structures from that point on will be like underestimating well. From that point on, like an interest scenario that I'm going to bring up into so the players basically my personal impression that like since like Julius like the current wizard king like Julius is like the 28th wizard king that Liam was from the 29th wizard king definitely won't be ending up eventually ending up being after but like I'm going definitely that Liam was going through a betrayal like I'm looking like eventually Julius ending up dying. It's like a scenario that I'm looking and that betrayal I'm looking to most likely happening through expansion. So definitely my betrayal like Vance is totally earning Julius trust and eventually totally making that ultimate betrayal on Julius with and like I'm feeling like Julius getting ambushed, getting into like an ambush attack kind of like a situation by like the SMN and eventually at some point it's like an user scenario that I'm doing and that will be the point where I can like probably do order himself and that's the point where I can like Julius would be getting eliminated, would be taken out by like by SMN. It's like an user scenario that I was doing and I was doing like man then like betrayal being that absolute shock to like Julius at that point is also like a that I was doing. Definitely I was doing like even while Julius is like strong there would be that innocent and kind of like a naive side to Julius that would be kind of to a certain extent would be like according to like Julius character would be someone who would be like kind of like to like trust people. It's also definitely also like about the development and so there would be that side to like Julius which for which like I'm going to the really ending up playing with like through that bands mental betrayal on Julius. This will be something in that like the item and I'm ganging up on Julius and they really taking out Julius and Julius ending up dying is like the scenario that I'm doing. And definitely at that point like I'm doing it's like 29 Wizard King will be getting chosen and I'm definitely bringing that 29 Wizard King would be definitely would be someone who will be definitely having like some sort of like a secret allegiance to like the Italian and stuff. It's also like an immediate working scenario that I will respect. So that way once again like the Italian that freaking that then that affects the flow of kingdom and like all the other mathematics what happens and like mathematics and everyone. It's like an immediate scenario that I was doing. So like I was doing like but still I'm going like eventually that the fact that like that 29 Wizard King has that secret allegiance to like the minutes and that I'm going like it would be like Asta and through that would be like only eventually figuring that out and I'm like eventually like I'm going like after like that final ultimate showdown fight in which like I'm going to be definitely that legend from like the post like basically that repeating itself but in that but not on that exact same manner but there will be like different that but still it will be like the history repeating itself kind of like a situation with like once again like that giant demon monster like basically being getting resurrected through like the stone tablet and everything. And I'm also covering that no, regardless of like all the other management podcasts and everyone like trying to stop that giant demon monster, like I'm doing all of them fading, and it will be like finally it will be like Asta and Yono alone that will be like remaining standing and in that price. And I'm like even Yono as well like eventually I'm sure at that point I was running both Asta as well as Yuno would be like the object of position of being squad captain of like that squad. Like at that point, like I was running that Yuno would be the squad captain of the Golden Dawn and Asta would be like the squad captain of like the Blackbirds. And I was running even before that, like I was definitely putting like the rest of Yami as well to happen, which would be resulting in like the Blackbirds through that together, that so selecting Asta to be like the like that first person who's like totally qualified to be the squad captain. So like in the scenario that I'm looking that way, standing up being like squad captain of the black standing to be while like then you know are like the squad captain possible that like I'm looking that ultimate final showdown battle against like the dark demon monster of the guy will be happening. And I'm looking like in that battle like then you know alone like remaining the remaining one standing, and in that battle that battle will be eventually amplifying that dark demon monster like basically eventually totally or pouring you know and like badly injuring you know like with another bit of something, and that it will be all down to like at that point, and then it would like it to be exactly like the history repeating itself, like the legends, and then it would like it will be Asta all by himself, just finally unleashing some sort of like a power, to which like and like Asta who did only find the all pouring and defeating that giant dark demon monster, and that way saving like the entire power in the from like the giant dark demon monster. So like that way like history repeating itself, but like at that point like Asta would be getting frozen to be like the 30th Wizard King. Like it's the into scenario that I'm looking over and my first favorite. So like another reason maybe by then like I'm going that the 29th Wizard King as well like ending up being dead. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like that way like I'm looking like once like I would be saving like the plot and the like the land stuff demon monster like I'm looking like as that ending up being chosen by the entire Flipper Kingdom by to be like next Wizard King, like to be like the 30th Wizard King. It's like can even scenario that I'm going to elaborate and my own reimbursement. So therefore, like the minimum reimbursement right now was the like Julius right now taking like the best part of like the future like the revelation of like Augustus about like how like exactly like the Royal KnightsExm takes place like so like I'm referring definitely this that whole jealousy like I'm referring right now like I'm referring that jealousy keeping on building in within like Augustus towards like Julius and Julius of like popularity among like the people of like his kingdom and everything. So like I'm referring that as well definitely I'm referring literally king and eventually to eventually ending up being thrown into like a becoming like a huge factor in that which would be causing like Julius that eventually in like the case of like the scenario that I'm so like I'm referring like a betrayal of that not only vengeance, but like there will be like that absolute betrayal of like Augustus as well. Due to Augustus' extreme jealousy towards like Julius, that like Augustus wants to like get rid of Julius. So like I'm looking like and replace Julius with like another wizard thing. So like I'm looking like Augustus would be so extremely there will be that extreme naive side to like Augustus, which would be like only failing to see that like really the exceptional strength of like Julius being absolutely essential for to ensure like the protection of like the clock kingdom and everything and his own protection and everything. So like I'm just like instead like his thought mind I'm just going to fill with that as jealousy towards like Julius that I'm just going to like him totally maybe like and I'm just going that jealousy I'm just maybe like man just into at some point like totally noticing and I'm just like Vance totally maybe even taking advantage of that jealousy of Augustus to like totally to have Augustus along with him that totally betray Julius and that way like that eventually ending up with like them eventually taking out like Judas and Judas ending up dying is like the scenario that I'm doing that way like I'm doing like it would be Vantis that would be like tricking Augustus and gaining the trust of Augustus and I was bringing that way with like Augustus like listening to like upper black tools that like I'm doing listening to like Vengeance William and like a recommendation of like who it should be that should like replace Julius as like the 29th Wizard King. And that way, like I'm going like the 29th Wizard King ending up being like a Wizard King, that person, a person that would have like secret allegiance to the IFM and Anthem. It's also like an individual corporate scenario that I'm going to go over and my reimbursement. Okay, so that definitely three reflection right now as for like the guy with the left this exact teeth right now that basically it's actually showing up into like the middle of like as like the line about to begin like as like the squad captains and all like the match squad members as well as like Julius and everyone is like totally gathered into that location for him to like basically so actually like not only show up but like disrespectfully even lean over Julius himself like those of him like in a disrespectful manner like him even leading on to like Julius like those of King himself like definitely bring it to the all due to like extreme overconfidence is definitely not the because like I'm definitely bring even in like the definitely that Julius is like actual close 20 feet far from present that of like this guy was like the exact tape. It's definitely and even right now as he's like successfully leading over like to like I'm looking that Julius if like Julius wants like Julius would be able to like Julius would be easily able to like totally catch up him or like trap him or like even eliminate him or taking like that would be the levels of strength that Julius would be having. It's definitely never great. Yet like the soldiers for Julius not doing that would be solely due to like Julius like carefully observing what that like who and trying to like figure out who he is and what he's like up to and that we should be right now not only in like also observing what this guy is like looking serious like in the road of like doing and everything, especially when whether it's connected to like that whether to end up having anything to do with like the feminism and all that. So that Julius would be carefully observing this before like making any move on that like guy with like with that case, especially when the person because like this would be also considering the possibility of like basically there being like others uh other people along with him probably not being or not having shown up all alone but like there possibly being others as well simply like nearby that will be part of this like army that is of like the guy who can visit that like this would be considering all of this as like a possibility as like the person as like qualified with the king, like when you do the team considering all possibilities and so we the preparation for like just not making a move and just standing there and basically observing like all that the effect of that this guy with like rejected and everything. Secondly, on the and I'm like as for like the guy who is rejected, like I'm sitting in my brain because that like the really him even showing up into like the middle of the Royal Knights exam and like him totally like casually just playing himself to be like that like white captain affect the performance and everything. Definitely able to like him. Definitely it would be definitely just like obsession with like wanting to be, that he might have had like his entire life and even to the person that beat down like he would definitely be having that frustration and of and obsession towards like mathematics and that extreme frustration of like him not being able to like be become like a mathematics. Definitely remember which might have been at like during from his all the way back from his childhood might have been like registering his like at least like he made it only and probably failed. So definitely my the brain, but this might be the reason for like his insert and obsession towards like the nights definitely my the brain version. So like I'm looking like from his point of view, like he would be only like and I'm looking like even from like the top like I'm looking like he might be someone who might have attacked like night because like I'm looking like since that he wasn't able to become like a night and like in, like basically like whenever he might have ran into like a night he might have only taunted them and mocked them and might have like probably attacked them and defeated them and like that would be his way like I'm looking like the way of like the guy with them to reject it like I'm looking it would be his way to like desperately make himself feel as if like even though he wasn't able like a zero goal of become a match night like by defeating match night he's even better than a match night to make himself feel such a manner would be such a desperate attempt by this black guy, like this black guy. This definitely one of the things. So like and things even right now showing up right now into like the middle of like the Royal Knights exam as it's like about to even begin as like all squadrons and everyone is like gathered like even though the thing is right there like it's doing all this would be solely due to was it part of like that whole frustration towards like the Magic Knights and jealousy towards like the Magic Knights that relying within Stephanie my friend. That coupled with like extreme overconfidence thing in the ability to like show all this prospect casually show up into like the middle of all this and they really would easily able to like escape. Definitely able to like him to be like having like all sorts of like unique powers and like he will be having like all sorts of like special he will be having special magic powers as well. So definitely about it that and everything like and it would be also like really playing a role in like extreme overconfidence in like everything is like showing right now and showing up and showing all and showing in like to like the middle of all this and everything, especially even after like things having like basically attack like unprovokably attack like vice captain match nice definitely member the range. So like this would all be like extreme or confidence and that extreme or and definitely because of like this like guy with like the exact is like not prioritizing self at all right now. As he's like so casually showing up to like middle of all these like certainly my good thing is that like, currently he would be solo all by himself like not all part of like the midnight group at all right now. It's definitely my good thing. It would be like obsession and jealousy towards like ice knife that might have brought him to like the middle of all this. Definitely one of the elements involved. Definitely I'm looking like his like or conflict and position without his great delay just like backfiring on him. The like the scenario that I'm looking at. The like him right now doing all the times that definitely triggering a lot of like the by now he would be like triggering a lot of like the matchmates but and but like Julius as well standing right there like I'm just like him I'm just right now won't be his intent and showing up would be to like his he would be like a not only always keeping tabs on like everything that's like and spying on like the plot in the man, everything that's like going on in like the plot in the man happening with like the night match and everything. So like I'm thinking like he would be like right now him even right now showing up to like the him even right now showing up to like the clothing that would be especially solely due to like him already being aware and having found out about like this like important Royal Knight exam taking place in like right now in like the clothing. That's definitely one of the premise. So like I'm looking right now that the intent behind him showing up would be most likely for him to like most likely to basically once again creating that validation like for him to like because like right now like the Royal Knight system like basically all of the strongest squad captain like all of them have gathered like basically for him like I'm looking like for like the guy with that exactly like he would be the threat to like seek more validation that like even though he wasn't able to become a Magic Knight and like he's like even better than a Magic Knight or the Magic Knights and Magic Knight squad captain. So like for him to like he would be totally seeking that validation through right now it would be like his attempt to think the reason he would be is him showing up to like the middle of the Royal Knights exam as it's about to begin would be for him to like participate in like the Royal Knights exam and that way like he would want to like prove to like the thing and to everyone that together around that basically even though he is not a Magic Knight squad captain, like even though he's not a Magic Knight, he's still better than Magic Knight. He's still stronger than Magic Knight. Like for him to like prove this point, I'm looking like he would have shown up right now. It's definitely memorable. So like I'm looking right now, like I'm looking like him totally like threatening like the Wizard King and like mocking like the Wizard King and like all of them and mocking the club squad captain and basically him telling like the Wizard King that basically it's the thing there that like I'm looking like right now thing telling the thing and all of that like he's even better than all these like Magic Knight squad captains as well. Like he's even stronger and better than all of them. And like it like they doubted like basically to let him join like the Royal Knights exam and like or like let him for him to like face off against like the squad captain in like a one versus one battle like and he will prove it to like all of them would be along the lines of like him totally walking and telling all of them like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like I'm like him most likely right now telling like the King like and that or like I'm doing him like even challenging like the King for like one versus one battle and that he would prove to like all of them that he's even stronger than the King. Maybe even I'm looking like he would be like the guy that this exactly probably even and that much of like an extreme or something so like about into that and so like I'm looking like at that point maybe I'm looking at that point for like Julius I'm delivering it to be like that guy with that him showing up, he would have shown up all by himself. I'm looking like maybe like I'm looking like Julius totally without like ordering like all of them to like capture him like I'm looking maybe like Julius instead of like I'm looking like just like bold declarations like totally speaking Julius interest that I'm looking maybe like Julius totally telling that telling him to like basically so that basically to fight off against like Yami. Maybe I'm referring Yami himself will be shouting out to Julius that basically that because like I'm referring like Yami as well. The one right now would literally kind of getting irritated by like the extreme or confidence of like the guy who does exactly so also like about with that I'm referring. So like I'm referring maybe like Yami totally shouting out in the middle of all this and I'm like Yami totally shouting out and like the guy with like this exact date and basically and asking him to like face to have a battle against Yami. And I was like, he was totally agreeing to that. So like I was like before like the Royal Knights exam even begins, like I was like a one versus one battle between like Yami and like the guy with like this exact case. Like it's like the scenario that I'm looking to happen. So like I'm looking like in that battle like I'm looking at place. And I'm looking at that battle being like either battle between like that case like I'm looking like happening in that one versus one battle I'm looking happening either against Yami or like against like Maraliona. So the either one of these two that I'm looking right now without mystery level fighting and facing off against like the guy with the exact case in that one versus one battle. It's like the scenario that I'm looking, and I'm looking like the guy is exactly in that battle, so that battle is being put in his place and getting his like massively to a crush. It's like the scenario that I'm looking because like I'm looking in that battle, I'm just lifting the guy with the exactly like in that one versus battle, like one versus one battle, like even though he will be giving it like absolute everything and his like full strength into that battle, I'm still eventually ending up losing that battle. It's like the scenario that I'm looking, and him losing to either against like against like Leona or like him losing to Yami. It's like one of these two scenarios that I'm looking at. And I was looking at that point, I was looking like him getting captured. At that point, I was looking maybe like just ordering him to to be captured for like interrogation or something. Is like the scenario that I was looking. So like I was looking like at that point, like him being captured and him temporarily put into like the prison on the underground area. This is like the impression that Julius would be deep down having that like slight bit of like fear and confusion of like the possibility of like this guy was like the that place like possibly having an allegiance to like the IFM and even showing up was behind some sort of like connection to according to like the intent of like the IFM and like there is this fear and confusion within Julius. So like I'm excited for example like there is a scenario to be like the guy with the exact is like embarrassed from the losing to either Yan or like Maraleona and him being ordered by like Julius to be captured and sent to like the prison on like the underground area of like the research teams like Pads and Castle and I'm looking there like Mark from the looking like that personal assistant of like Julius like Mark and was looking like only like using his power like reading like the memories of like this like guy with exactly and I'm looking like figuring out that basically this guy with the this he's totally figuring out that this guy with like exactly like not having any sort of connection to like the determination, but that like he's just someone who's like taking off his like frustration of like not being able to like be a magic knight and all that like I'm looking like to like the memory reading powers of like Mark like I'm looking into is finding out about all the like the scenario that I'm looking. So like after that like I'm looking at so I'm looking like him temporarily he's trying to like temporarily give him that important kind of exhibition. But like I'm looking that very night like I'm looking actually William and just like oh he's sneaking into like that castle of Julius and like I'm looking William and especially because of like I'm looking like doing that whole fight performance by like the guy with like this exact teams. Which I'm looking right now with the creative happening against like in like the public against like Maradona or like Yami, like I'm looking definitely just by just seeing that fight performance itself of like the guy who's exactly like I'm looking like Vangelis who will definitely have that secret intelligence to like the F and Vangelis will be totally impressed with like the performance of this guy who does exactly even while he's not even a magic knight. Uh, that basically so that factor I'm looking like he's speaking for things like Vangelis that I'm looking like that very night like I'm looking like uh, Van is stealthily sneaking into like the castle of like the king and like I'm going Van just like secretly showing up to like the person of like and the guy with the exact date and Van is freeing him is like the scenario that I'm expecting. That way like I'm expecting that even just resulting in like the guy with the exact date like through Van just like getting recruited to like the eighth minute. It's definitely my and then like after like the guy with the exact date like lost to like either Yami or like Napoleon and the like when would be like even more frustrated and to be filled with the thoughts to like destroy and take the life of like maybe Yami or like Maradona, like also like a possibility that I was saying like it would be fueled and filled with that absolute again frustrating towards like the Magic Knight towards all the Magic Knights. So like I'm doing totally van just taking advantage of all this to like basically to have him join like the IFM and group. And the reasons like the IFM group as well have like the similar kind of like towards to like for like the spectrum of Kingdom and the Magic Knights and everything and the king and everything. So like I was putting that way, like I'm looking like that guy with the exact teeth, like I'm looking like through and then like him eventually ending up becoming like the newest recruit of like the IFM and I'm looking like at that point like in this shortly placing like the third eye onto like the guy with the zigzag teeth as well. It's also like a positive that I'm doing. So like I'm doing it that way, like the ancient ancestor is controlling the guy with the zigzag teeth as well. Like with scenario where I'm doing that way, like I'm doing it on placing the third eye, like I'm doing with the guy with the zigzag teeth, like reaching that new exceptional levels of like levels of powers, like the scenarios that I'm doing. And that way, like I'm doing like him totally eventually like the him making it a return and having like a rebattle against like whether it's like Maraleona or like Yami that would be right now on the 40 members will be like between members like uh them eventually like a rebattle happening between them and like that's which guy which exactly while possessing the power of expert and maybe it would be in that fighting like conspiracy of that maybe the guy for like a remote positive that in that rebattle like the guy who does exactly like possibly not only offering defeating but also possibly even taking the life of like maybe Maraliona or like Yami at that point like the different also like any possible scenario that I'm also delivering another three impression. And so definitely on three impression right now is what like the guy is like is exactly right now while leaning disrespectfully leaning off to like Julius like basically also talking about like him running into like the distressed old lady and basically helping her out like what we definitely do to like him definitely knowing like the Julius a lot like him possibly knowing as for like Julius is like disguise and Julius spying around of people Julius is like behavior of like secretly spying on others like by in like the the transformation of like the old lady like I'm looking like this guy who exactly will be well aware of this uh habit and behavior of like Julius definitely my person. So it's definitely my favorite. So like I'm looking also like about this maybe like the guy who does exactly that probably maybe being like Julius's like younger brother. So also like about that episode. So like things Stu might have had this absolute desire to be like a visiting even from his childhood. Exactly like Julius as well. It's also like about that episode. So but like I'm referring like while Julius might have eventually received this like fourth floor more like about like this like younger brother of like Julius uh, might have not received any grimoire at all. It's also like a possibility that I'm going. So like since then like this extreme jealousy towards like Julius might have happened and I'm like eventually once like Julius became like the king of like the claw in the man everything like basically once like Julius became like the wizard king like I'm looking like it's like jealousy like just like him still not even being able to like even be like a man might like I'm looking like the guy who's exactly like extreme jealousy towards like Julius might not only skyrocketed, especially even with the reimburse. So definitely, so like he might have been like always like with that absolute jealousy and frustration, he might have been always like secretly spying on Julius, like everything Julius was doing as like the researching and everything is definitely my frustration. So like that way he might know well as for like Julius like the behavior of like often transforming and spying on others as like the transform form of like old lady. So also definitely my frustration. So so like also my considering question right now is for like eventually for like the since the 20 member example currently is eventually for like even though currently I'm looking like the guy who does exactly maybe like doing everything all by himself all alone and won't be like connected to like the minutes and at all like and the still a 20 member like him totally getting recruited as like the newest member of like the minutes and I'm wondering like that's where like eventually in like the single I'm the guy with the exact speed like who would be most likely like the young recruiter of like Swedish yet due to like extreme jealousy and frustration of that not being able to not only be a matchmate but also not being able to like become that with a team like I'm like maybe like I'm like eventually in like the distance of him totally playing like a major role in like basically Julius that which I'm looking happening in like the which I'm looking like with like younger product who is like this guy with which is that is like I'm looking like maybe playing like a major role in that as well. It's like also like can still possible scenario that I'm looking and I'm looking since like he always have his like face covered. Like I'm looking like the guy since like the guy who's like is always has like face covered like I'm looking that might be also with like a purposeful and conscious intent. This would be like maybe he would be like still holding on to the flag, even though he wasn't able to like become a match knight. Like I'm looking like maybe even through trickery, like he would be like still planning on like achieving this goal of like eventually becoming like the king of like the law. And so also like about that I'm looking. So like I'm looking maybe like him even revealing about this to like eventually like I'm looking maybe once like eventually once like the guy with just rejoining the life seven as a maybe at that point, like included revealing this like ultimate goal to become like the king to to events like to list. It's also like a possibility that that way like I'm like list even giving him the offer of like being able to like be like of like helping him out to like basically take out Julius so that like he could see some like the next uh visit to the 29th visit king of like the Clover Kingdom. But like only under the condition that like he or him always like listens to like Lich and like help Lich out with like Lich's role as well. Like so like basically a give and take kind of like a deal like basically I'm looking at forming and happening between that um, between like the guy who is that tape as well as that list and like that and so also like anything possible that I'm looking. So like I'm looking like eventually certainly that way I come to the to my relation that like thing the guy who is that is like possibly playing a major role in like eventually like to this stuff. And I'm also like on Julius type like I'm doing like the 29 with the king possible maybe being like the exact guy with like the exact tape with like him but at that point, like taking out his like mask and basically revealing his face only at that point, and I was like him totally like changing up his like hair color and like hairstyle and everything, and basically him totally pretending to be like a genuine person and basically freaking like the entire place like the lost kingdom, and that way like becoming like the 29th Wizard King just like also like an eventual possible scenario that I'm looking at. Which like about which like I'm looking like Afghan who like eventually would be finding out in like the future. And I was looking that way like eventually I'm looking like him ending up dying as also like in like the future like in the scenario that I'm looking at very much. Okay, so that does mean I'm very much right now with the two just right now laughing off the suspect and basically allowing like as the guy exactly join like as the team as like the for like the Royal Knights and that's definitely my direction right now. That's basically by Julius would be like well I'm fully aware of that like I'm preferring that guy exactly sitting with the friends that like he would be Julius was younger brother and Julius would be like probably aware of it. And I'm preferring it to be right now it would be Julius alone that would be like aware of that as well. It's definitely going to be so definitely. In the case of like Mark, like the attendant of previous like right now, I think Julius if he's show up to like let um like like attend like the Royal Knight system, like I'm like even Mark like asking that would be with like Mark totally asking out of like seeing like what the guy with the Jacksie did as like kind of suspect. Other than that, like I'm like even Mark as well will be right now thinking that basically that the guy with the Jacksie is actually stuck it's definitely my question. So like I'm looking like as well as like all the other like would be right now only thing that basically the guy with that page just like that while I'm looking like it would be Julius alone that would be when I'm fully aware that basically that's not that would definitely my question. So definitely and on top of that like, I'm sitting in my question that Julius would be like that would be like the guy with the seat would be like Julius' younger brother and Julius would be like totally that even though he might have like the simple like he might have left Julius and might out of his extreme jealousy and towards like Julius like and the different like Julius would be right now totally kind of glad as well to like be able to like see his like younger brother. It would be like the guy who should like after like such a long time and new members of so like this is the such reason for like Julius right now. And, like even while Julius would be well and fully aware that like he's not just like Julius only being okay with it might be like that 20 of like situations, definitely remember for reimbursement. He was trying to reimbursement where like two days would be most likely fully aware that like how much that I would that case would be his brother, like how badly he wanted to be like a magic knight and wasn't able to. So like I'm looking like solely I'm looking it was not that because of like to been well fully aware of that like you would be also straight away thinking that literally just a younger brother would definitely be meaning no harm. No technical methods. So like this would be like using his black power as like the in a way kind of like misusing his black power as like currently would be only kind of in a way stealthy would be misusing his black power as like those are things to like allow so that like this like younger brother the guy with that they could like only experience like at least to a certain like to even a tiny extent as like what feels like to be part of like to be a magic knight to be part of like the magic knight and all that it's definitely never right so like it would be most likely who is doing that giving that charity or like doing that charity to the like younger brother so this is what going on right now what is happening right now it's definitely not right so like I'm looking at uh like the winter scenario that I'm looking at for like it would be after like after like team the Royal Knights exam of like after team would be over and I'm looking like definitely in that exam like I'm looking definitely the guy with the zigzag teams, I'm definitely putting like him not doing any teamwork at all, and I'm like him selfishly all by himself, like trying to without even like helping out like the other team members, including us, like I'm like him trying to like complete and win like that game, like complete that like Royal Knights exam all by himself. So like I'm just like him all by himself, like really charging it straight away and trying to like destroy or steal like the crystal of the thing as per like the game. Like the scenario that I'm looking and him doing that without much of a trouble at all. So also like in the scenario that I'm looking. So like him without anything but all by himself like charging in and like sweeping like the victory without much great delay as soon as like the Royal Knight exam of like as the stream would be beginning itself. So like in the scenario that I'm also coming. And I'm also like it should be after like that exam as teams like Royal Knights exam would be over that I'm also like that subordinate of like the actual sub whom like the guys who exactly had defeated like basically his like subordinate would be only at that point he would be like frantically showing up and basically shouting out to like them talking about like what the guy of the exact state had done to like the actual sub and that like he's not the actual sub like him like exposing that in front of everyone exposing that truth in front of everyone only happening at that point. It's like the so after like after like teams like Ronald will be over like in the scenario that was yeah like I was like Julius totally maybe like telling them that basically that like still he's like considering as the team as like having won like the Royal Knight as one of the Royal Knight system because like I was definitely as and like the other members as well will be shooting the great performance as well in the Royal Knight system like the scenario that so like I'm looking like definitely even at that point like Julius not declaring like a retake of like as the team like exam even after like everyone will be finding out that like the guy is the exactly not the actual stuff news and so like I'm like that way like and I'm looking at that point that Julius totally like in front of everyone like totally telling uh, that guy with the exactly to like be part of like the Royal Knight army to like destroy like the base of like the Iron Minister like Julius asking that like and like him straight away like a few things that Julius would like Ethan. Straight away introducing Julius like the scenario that I'm using and him straight away like leaving and like him while leaving like him only making fun of like the Magic Knight and like Julius and all of them and basically him leaving just like that at that point it's like the scenario that I was looking for like him not deciding not to be like the guys exactly deciding not to be part of the Disappointment Army like the scenario that I'm looking and that way, like I'm looking like instead of the guy who does exactly like I'm looking like it would be like the actual job that would be like I'm looking like into the touring by the time yeah, like the remaining Royal Knight film would be over and by the time like the very days in which like they would all be like intended to the winners of like the Royal Knight system would be intended to like make their infiltration and attack on like the base of like the ISM and like I'm looking by the like I'm looking like the actual true the would have recovered and then like him to being part of like the Royal Knights army that way without even participating in like the Royal Knights exam with like showing the scenario that I was already talking and my birthday. Also, like the living of reimbursement right now as for like a stream part of the same thing like Sword and Magma already starting that part and fight between each other. Like I'm looking and still I'm looking like into the in that because I'm looking like as time passes like I'm looking like Sword and Magma like crossing path more and more eventually as time passes and I'm looking like eventually like there is temperature and only thing for like Sword eventually like developing feelings of obsession towards like Magma like in which scenario that I'm looking for I'm into okay, so like the minimum mentioned right now is for like the team in which like the three-member team in which like Solid Silva and then like Electora is in that everything would be going up. Eventually it would be like only going up against like the team in which like and Noel as well as like you know it's definitely I'm three mentioned. So like I'm like in that like I'm definitely putting that whole rivalry thing happening between like not rivalry but like that whole that bizarre to like pro for like Noel against like solid totally happening and like that desire to go for like an electoral totally happening against Jonas definitely my preparation, especially with like I think like electoral currently being totally jealous of like Jonas success and zero like others. quick success and throw like I'm looking definitely Electora would be only the spread to like basically to prove to like everyone that like he's better than you know. So like I'm looking that whole desperation out of like Electora totally happening against you know. Yet like I'm looking you know totally still performing better than Electora. And definitely in like the case of like Noel Lambert like solid totally like I'm sitting to the that like Solid would be still trying to like would only doing everything to like bring down like the morale of like Noel and have like just definitely remember the then it wouldn't be like solid it would be and I'm looking that would only be part of like solid's like witnessing kind of like nature rather than like because like solid would be like seeing not initially would be taking that Noel sees that all and solid would be like constantly even seeing Noel as like the scenario that I'm living. Yeah, like I'm living as like that Noel will be like slowly starting to like perform like I'm living like at that point like solid like keeping on like trying to like bring down like the morale of like Noel and basically trying to like have Noel like lose her concentration and control over her magic and all that. So also like a possibility, also scenario that I'm living like regardless of the it would be definitely uh, with them both going against each other, like I'm looking it would be like the team of like Bruno and Noel that would be like defeating the team of like Solid as well as Alpha in this like the scenario that I'm looking. Also definitely on the impression for like the three member team in which like Simral and Leopold is in that and definitely would be usually will to be going up against like the three member team in which like Simral further language would be definitely the win scenario that I'm looking and like Simral and Leopold's team like defeating Landers' team. And that way, like I'm looking like definitely a face off between like Simral and Leopold happening where like I'm looking like Simral would be like literally uh outsmarting and doing better than like Langer and like basically shocking Langer and basically seizing like the victory, helping like Leopold seize like the victory. Was like and still that crystal is like the scenario in that whole Royal Knights Exm battle between them is like given the scenario that I'm doing that way. Like I'm doing Sindral as well as like Leopold ending up and like being part of the Royal Knights Army. Like in the scenario that I'm doing. So like my consider ratios are like in like land versus like three member team and the different like it will be like for to be like land that will be on the attack and basically would be like jumping ahead to like steal like the crystal from like Spinrad team is like in the scenario that I'm doing while like in Spinrad team like I'm doing it would be Leopold that would be on the attack and while it will be Spinrad that would be in charge of like the defense and protecting that their crystal is like the scenario that I'm doing. So like that way while Landers will be charging up towards like the side of like Pinral screen. Like at that point, when I was looking like the Pinral was like Landers like or like kind of like a battle, kind of like a situation happening. With like Pinral successfully like ensuring to like protect their crystal from land, and that was shocking language like the scenario that I'm building on Instagram. Okay, so like the cinema mention right now as for like the stage of like the film this first tournament of like, the Royal Knights Exm has like a huge stake in it. Like I'm just something definitely once it like no one's team's turn to like participate in like the exam like I was definitely at that point like no one totally taking advantage of like the water in that lake to like strengthen up her water-based magic like the scenario that I was so like I'm just like maybe no one like creating like a tsunami kind of like a thing using that lake or like creating like a huge water barrier using the water from like that lake to maybe do the defending part of like their system. This is also like an impossible scenario that I'm looking. Definitely able to like taking advantage of that water body that will be present in that phase. Just like any other scenario that I put it on the also, definitely one of the impression as for like in Soul and Magma stream, like I'm definitely putting it with Magma that would be on the attack and trying to like destroy like the six of the team, while Soul would be totally on the defensive. And basically, it would be using her style magic to with like there being like a lot of like land area within like the state of like the Roland system. That definitely I'm that definitely I'm putting that for Soul like take advantage of all that land to create like the ultimate wall kind of like a barrier to like protect their crystal. Just like using swords like upstairs magic is like an winter scenario that I've put in. So definitely absorbing sword would be on the defensive while magma would be on the attack. Like in their teams like the winter scenario that I was thinking also. Also, the cinema with rain question for like in that as the like remember team, I'm definitely putting like both Asta as well as like the guy with the zigzag team would be definitely wanting to like go in like the attack to like basically destroy like the cell is definitely memorable question. Both Asta and like the guy with like the zigzag team would be wanting to be to do the role of attacking. It's like the scenario that I'm referring, but like I'm referring like then totally trying to like fight between like that guy with the zigzag teeth to like get the position of like attack. Because like from as the point of view, as I would be totally seeing that like attack is like as the like, strong point rather than depending to get on the line as I would be feeling. And in the case of like the guy with the zigzag teeth, like we wouldn't even be considering as that all as our like his feelings or like what as that feels and all that at all. And him like straight away charging straight ahead for the attack straight as like the like exam even begins with like the scenario that I'm looking, and that way like I'm from as being forced to take up the role of like the defense about which like Asta would be that like sure or like confident about like the scenario that I'm doing. So like that way like Asta would be like playing the role of net defense and this would be such an uncharted kind of like a thing a situation for like Asta. Yet like I'm bringing me like Asta depending the philosophy team but from like the enemy team is like in the scenario that I'm looking for like I was okay, so like the thing which we're interested right now with like the Royal Knights exam being that of like a tournament format and the like teams are right now revealing how like the like battle wins or like the doesn't has having no effect on whether like in the past exam or not. Like definitely we're interested right now is definitely for like it has just seen like I'm definitely bring us just seen that definitely like making it all the way literally to the final like the scenario that I'm facing off against like you know the like the final perspective in the scenario that I'm yet like I'm like the difference would be that Jonas team like there would be that absolute coordination and teamwork. It would be through that absolute coordination and teamwork that like like Jonas team would be making it all the way to like the by in the case of like other team like like it would be solely due to lack because like definitely there will be absolutely no teamwork at all, regardless of how much like as I would be trying to make like the guy who is that team like for to listen to us and like to play as like a team to fight the exams like to perform in the exams as a team with like teamwork member like him totally not at all bonding at all. The guy who is that is like not at all bonding at all with like us at all and him totally keeping on mocking and making fun of like us all the way to like reaching like the final like the scenario that I'm looking and solely is that like I'm looking the cast that only being in that uncharted and unfamiliar territory of like having to take the role of defense and protect like the crystal like the scenario that I'm looking while it would be like the guy will that take him all by himself like even though he will be having exceptional strength like strength and skills like I'm bringing to each and every single time it will be him all by himself like that will be like straight away charging ahead and would be like trying to like destroy like would be destroying the crystals stepping away with him. So like I was like Asta and like the third team member in like Asta's team like only seriously having to like struggle to like basically to ensure like the defense and protection of like their crystals in of their team is like the scenario that I was like so like I'm like in like Asta's team like I was like Asta would be like just struggling to succeed in like and win and move on to like the next round in like the journey like so I mean it's like the scenario that I'm using. So like I'm like even though the guy is exactly has the extreme of confidence like and powers and everything like I'm like even though the initial rounds of like the tournament like I'm like definitely like I'm like even like all the way until like the semi-final round of like the tournament I was like the guy who is exactly like not having to like struggle much at all to like destroy like the still of the team it, that in that time it would be like Asta and like the third member that would have to like struggle at all to defend themselves like the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm looking like as for like once like and I'm looking that way like them they are like struggling their way into like basically and a lot of luck has been playing into like the platform because like I'm looking like definitely it will be like the speed in which like each and every single time like after like stream of to like exam I'm looking like it will be like exceptional speed in which like the guy who's exactly will be like destroying like the crystal of which opposite teams alone that will be like the sword factor that will be allowing as the team to like progress ahead because like I'm looking like as well as like the third team member will be struggling to ensure like the defense of like their team member. So that way like a lot of luck and like playing as like a factor in like as the team being able to like progress and make it all the way to reaching like the finals the team member. But like I'm looking at in the finals and the they are like totally running out just like the scenario that I'm looking and I'm like one of team would be like even in like the finals would have as they would be progressing with that team of in the team was getting better and better and strong up with like ease game in like the each exam in like the tournament that they would be like winning like team teamwork like better and get friends stronger. Each game is like the scenario that happens. So then like computer by team would be reaching and making it to like the finals like team plus teamwork would be like the best. That's like the scenario that I'm looking and with that as your the teamwork like I'm looking like team would be performing in like the final in like the RoyalKnightsExm while Amazon like Aska's team like Amazon as usual won't be having the teamwork at all. And Amazon like it would be once again like even in like the finals Amazon the guy will exactly like right as like can begins like charges straight ahead as usual and expecting for him to be like as like previous rounds in like the tournament. Being able to like easily charge ahead and quickly destroy like the style of like team. But like I'm doing that would be when like that was happening with like team that performing totally in an extraordinary manner, and then like that will be totally shocking. Even like the guy with the jacket, that's like in Yono's team, like the person Yono himself, Ambassador like will be attacking the guy with the jacket. As initially, Ambassador like maybe him totally expecting Yono to like straight away charging in exactly like him for like the attack, but like instead like Ambassador maybe like their performance being totally different and so, like targeting like the guy with the jacket, then like trying to attack and bring down like the guy with the jacket and I was like him totally struggling against like anyway the scenario that I'm doing. So like getting a see the spotlight with like a scenario that I was doing. And then like the other two members of like team as well, like in an extraordinary and exceptional manner that absolute team would be totally outsmarting like that. Together they would be like totally outsmarting like the guy with the jacket. So it's like an angel scenario that I was doing. Into which like I'm doing the guy with like the jacket like only just strategy to like he won't be having like any other strategy other than like sharp straight ahead and that overconfidence and stood for like the opportunity like itself. And that his attempt at that like failing that time in like against like team at that point is like the scenario that I was in that way him getting stopped and I was like at that point like after doing that like straight away charging straight towards like as that would be the fairly rank like defense like with the and I was like easily automatic as even though Asta would be like the fairly doing just to like defend like I'm still like totally outsmarting and Asta and basically like totally like surpassing Asta and basically going up to like making it to like the pistol and like totally like destroying like the step of like Asta's team and that way like I'm looking in the finals like Asta's team like losing against like team is like pretty much a scenario that I'm looking for again on the Rush. Okay, so like but Nemo information right now so like things like Nemo like on like Asta's team like I'm looking like even though like I'm definitely like neither Mimosa nor like After won't be at all will be able to like get through to like the guy who is exactly then like the guy who does exactly until like the very end of the tournament won't at all would be even like considering like would be totally ignoring like Asta and Mimosa and doing like playing the performing like the exam as he pleases like I'm sure like in the case of like Mimosa and Asta like I mean since Mimosa like since it's Asta's friend Mimosa since they know each other a lot like I'm like and since that's done knows that Mimosa's powers as well. And Mimosa knows Asta's powers as well. Like I'm saying definitely a teamwork totally happening between Asta and Mimosa. But like I'm saying that then that absolute teamwork would be totally so that just at like trying to like defend their self. Like I'm saying totally Asta as well as Mimosa would be totally focused on the defense and like trying to defend their space. But like I'm looking still like I'm looking like it would be Asta still would be like struggling. I'm looking like all the pressure probably falling on to like Mimosa even while they would be having the teamwork like I'm looking still the entire pressure will be totally mainly falling on to like Mimosa when it comes to like defense because like I'm looking like Asta's weak point would be defense and Asta's strong point would be like attack. No matter the kind of tournament or like even if it's like an actual battle, like I was like Asta's like strong point would always the brain might always be like attack, like definitely my preference. When it comes to like segmenting, like like Asta will be like hugely weak, and it will be Asta's weak point. So like that's the reason, like even though I'm the perfect for like that team or between like Asta and Mimosa happening, like I was doing still like the pressure like mainly falling on to like Mimosa to like guarantee to like ensure like the defense because like Asta would be struggling to like defend like the self from Asta's side. It's like even just scenario that I'm going, I'm not although maybe the pressure that when it comes to like depending like as I would be having that extreme disadvantage on top of that I'm looking like defending would be like the weak point of Asta like on top of that like as I'm looking would be having like the added disadvantage where of due to like Asta not having any magical powers like because like Asta would be totally forced to like have no other choice but to like swing both of his sword to like the defense like the pistols without solely like Asta not having any magical powers at all. definitely my mistake. So like I'm wondering like with that added disadvantage as well, I'm wondering like after probably struggling to like defend like the crystal of this game, like can which is scenario that I'm wondering I'm answering. Okay, so like talking about Emerson right now, as for like Asta right now, seeing Owens like waving and like calling him like the blocking of like super famous sketchy and of like I'm sorry, so Asta in the league might have like that use the word sketchy in like a comical kind of like sense. In that note, they get sense to be kind of like a funny kind of like a sense like like that that word sketchy would be like totally a foreshadowing uh, of like the future revelation about like Owens, where like Owens would in fact actually realistically be a sketchy character. Definitely sketchy and realistic character who would have definitely have secret allegiance to like the feminism, definitely my represent. So and definitely my represent that like while after had like the whole injury of the like arms and basically had showed it to like Owens like even back then I'm looking for like Owens might have been well and fully aware that basically either I'm looking for like Owens himself might have secretly had like the knowledge and skills to treat as the is like one possibility that I'm looking at. Or like the other possibility is that like Owens even back then might have totally knew about like the Queen of Witches being present and like about her definitely being able to like free as the but like he might have purposefully like they could like secret allegiance to like the nation might have kept that a secret. So definitely my preference. So like so that like with like so that he might have only expected that as I won't be able to like use the swords anymore and that way so that like the eye of the nation could like stealthily still has that sword like with like after not being holding on to the sword anymore like it so that it would be easier for like the Etermination to like the police steal away as the swords and take back like the swords belong to that initially originally like the past belong to like the ancient ancestors like it's definitely one of the things or it's definitely one of the definitely wants to be like the only thing I want to be knowing that would be that like the Ayatollah, he would be secretly allied to like the Ayatollah. Like the only thing he would be like knowing would be that like the Ayatollah badly wants like the source of Asta, especially with the friends. So like certainly because of this reason he might have like back then by Asta had basically met him with like as something around definitely when the remission. So definitely even right now we like the person like Asta like without realizing in like in an innocent manner like Asta calling like Owen Sketchy would be definitely a foreshadowing to like to the revelation that would be like shocking realization that will be happening for after and all of stuff that like once we realize we like that and definitely and definitely I'm like definitely uh Owens definitely even right now could be like secretly giving like most likely kind of like a slow poison to like fuel on supplement and this might be the precise reason for like entire time stopping and basically fuel on not recovering would be precisely due to like it being like the sketchy Owens like doing like the whole treatment of fuel on especially when the person like so like Owens would be really trying to like uh Owens would be right now with that absolute self would be like Williams Day steadily giving that slow poison to that fuel so that like to trick everyone into thinking that basically fuel wasn't able to like recover and over the years like Fugleon's like health like slowly deteriorated and basically ended up dying. It's definitely one of the ambition. So like I'm looking like maybe that this might be like confident because like I'm looking definitely like that when like Lich had been I think like had showed up to in that spatial area. I think like they had showed up and attacked Fugleon and stole away that magic stone from the Fugleon. Back then I'm looking like Fugleon might have figured out some critical truth about like the eye of the Manhattan also like about what that actually right. So like I'm thinking like definitely Liz might have like ensured to like basically to reach out to like William Andrews and basically through William Andrews like William Andrews might have basically communicated to like Owens and I was to Owens like I was like definitely this whole like treatment of like Fugleon would have been going on the entire time and like Fugleon Ambassador definitely won't be making a return from this like a better mistake like given the scenario that I'm about so like Ambassador like it could be like a slow poison kind of a situation that like Fugleon would be right now going through due to like the villain stick Owen it's definitely in the name of like treatment might be what might be happening is the lack of possibility that I'm looking so like I'm looking like Fugleon like I'm going to eventually will be ending up dying due to lack of it. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm looking at. Okay, so like the minimum mission right now has got like Gordon on top of like not getting any spotlight at all in during like the entirety of the example what the temple like on top of that like this being the Black Gordon once again right now even in like the Royal Knights sector to be part of like the Royal Knights army to like make that extremely important and crucial that attack on like the base of the dominance and on that like in such a situation with like Gordon right now once again losing like the spotlight and deciding to like not participate in like the Royal Knights exam and just like cheer from like the sidelines. I'm delivering still my mother issues that like even like after like the Royal Knights army attack on like the base of like the Iceland national that situation like all that will be over like I'm saying that what happens next will be like the next situation that will be happening after that like in that is what I'm delivering like Gordon will be at least at that point will be finally getting like just like moment and just like spotlight like even the scenario that I'm also noticing and not framing. Okay, so like since I told my other versions and those of thing like in like the finals of like the Royal Knights systems in terms of the like it will be like finally Astar's team versus like Juno's team that will be facing off against going at against each other in like the final picture or like then like I'm looking like at that point I'm looking like since like Charmy is like also like cheering from the sidelines I'm looking like by then like in the finals like I'm looking like Charmy will be totally confused as to like whom to like cheer for whether to cheer for like Astar at the team or to whether to cheer for like Yuno's team because of like Germany having this like massive corruption going on. So like I'm looking for like definitely Germany eventually like while standing along with like the remaining cheering Blackwood's crew members like I'm looking like Germany eventually Germany's confusion ending up with like Germany eventually ending up choosing deciding to like cheer for Yuno's team is like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm looking while comical kind of like a scenario where like the remaining Blackwood's crew members, since like it would be like the finals, like all the remaining Blackwood's crew members who would have got eliminated at all standing together and watching from like the sidelines, and while all of them would be like strongly cheering, passionately cheering for Astra, like I'm looking like Charmy alone, like cheering for like the scenario that I'm looking at, that shocking like all of like the remaining Blackwood's crew members, like the scenario that I'm looking at, and then calling like Charmy like a traitor or something as well. So like an individual scenario that I was referring and also so like the other positive that I'm looking for, which is like right now, which is like the more likely positive that I'm looking for, since like it is in like seeing like I'm looking for like the finals of like the Royal Knights exam like I'm looking like which continues to example could be between like Atlas team and like team and in that team like that like I'm looking for like the I'm looking for definitely for like the guy with like the exact piece like him as usual like I'm looking for like him totally straight away as like the bad begins itself like straight away charging in and going in for like that to like deploy like pistol of like stream but like I'm looking like by then would have gained that absolute form that absolute teamwork with like Noel and like like third member in like stream so like I'm looking with that absolute teamwork and they might have possibly not only by then will be having that absolute teamwork but would also be creating their ultimate strategies to like defeat I've just been like the scenario that I'm looking. So like that way, like I'm looking until then I'm looking like all the way through the journey, like the tournament of like Spain, like I'm looking like it will be always like that will be like going in for like that back in India and like it will be known throughout might be all throughout the journey in that tournament will be like mainly focusing just on like the defense and defense, it's definitely not the question, but like I'm looking like for like the finals against like Astor's team, like I'm looking like Europe and knowing like coming up like an ultimate brilliant strategy where like I'm looking like would have like they might have strategies to like have stop like the guy with like the zigzag tape. So like that way like I'm looking like even though as like that is against itself like the guy tape like as you said would be charging in to like destroy like the cell like I'm looking like still like like so like contrary to the like expectations like that totally being like the obstacle for this path to like the point, like the crystal of like things like the scenario that I'm looking. So like not only bring out all of the current powers and skills and everything practical strategies and everything, like using that like I'm looking, making it seriously hard for like the diabetes that states to like destroy the existence of like things. And I'm looking like when like between such a whole clash between like and like the diabetes that state will be going on, like I'm looking like typically according to at that point like comfortable like the third member of like team would be like sharing the defense and like while Asta and like the third member of like Asta's team would be like only least expecting in that which would be something that Noel as well as might have earlier said like might have started beforehand to have this like unexpected attack from Noel at that point for like Noel to like at that point to go in for like that attack, and that way like I'm friend when while Asta and like the third member of the team would be like at least expecting it like I'm looking like Noel totally going in for like the attack. So like I'm looking you know stopping like the guy with like the exact face and like Noel totally unexpectedly going in as part of like perspective like you know like Noel going in for like the attack, and I'm looking Noel straight away charging in towards like the Asta would be, and I'm looking like at that point like Asta and Noel like Noel like with that serious feel like I was like approaching Asta and like Asta and Noel as like Asta would be like totally that still I'm looking like Asta would be determined to like not go easy on Noel, but like I'm looking at that point like I'm looking Noel totally freaking Asta, like I'm looking like Noel like somehow managing to that trick Asta into like basically like totally out Noel outsmarting that way, outsmarting Asta, and being more to like the high possibility of like it being through not through but like it being through Noel that like I'm looking like the crystal of like Asta's team in that final battle of like the Royal Knights exam that would be getting destroyed through Noel outsmarting and outsmarting Asta and like reaching like the crystal and like attacking and destroying like the crystal of like Asta's team. That way Noel like the making that final move and that basically destroying like the crystal of Asta's team and choosing that free like an eventual scenario that I'm with all the point and my person of which and definitely bring like Asta even more than being sad, like I'm looking at Asta seriously would be like impressed with like deep down would be seriously impressed with like Noel's performances, like impressed and even feeling proud of that Noel's performance at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm looking but like I'm looking like Noel on the other hand would be totally mocking and making fun of Asta from that point on, like the scenario for like a long time from that point on, like I'm looking Noel always like always making us remember like Asta's love against and defeat against like Noel. And I know that way like in a non-serious manner, like totally mocking, repeatedly mocking and making fun of Asta. Like the scenario that I'm looking forward to. And my visibility. Yet like I'm looking to like Julius now for the reveal that basically it's not like the victory or that loss in like the Royal Knights exam that decides whether one would like pass or like fail in like the selection process for like the Royal Knights army. Like I'm looking like we decided to really already reveal this. Like I'm looking like even though like no one's team in like the finals and those something that lead would be like defeating Astra's team in like the finals. Like I'm looking still, but like I'm looking like Astra's team as well to be like losing to like no one's team as well to be even though they would have lost, like they would still be getting selected to be part of like the Royal Knights army. It's definitely like the scenario that I'm looking at.